Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to the Prince of Fresh Air. I'm, of course, your host, the most charismatic man in entertainment. Beat that, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. We are back. We are live. Right before I hit vacation, going to Nashville a little bit, enjoy a little bit of the Elvis Presley. I want to, have a nice conversation with my guest, returning this little weasel, embarrassed me on his platform. But you know what? I'm gonna let it slide because we've had a good rapport for over the last few years. So he's an actor, podcaster, writer, theater director. He hosts the Corcoran Entertainment Show, and he's a pleasure to work with. Even though he's comparing me to Jason Momoa, we'll let that slide for now. But please help me introduce again, returning the weasel himself, Franky Corcoran.
Thank you, man. Thanks for that intro. So yeah, for those guys who don't know, Percy did my podcast, and I guessed his age. I said mid-30s, and he has not gotten over it. But come on, man. Things happen, eh?
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. You aging me, man. Come on, I can't let it slide. Just like Jason Momoa, I can't let him slide from stealing my roles. But enough about that. Let's get into this, Franky. It's been a while since we chatted, and just let me know what's been going on since last time we chatted. A lot of things changed over the years, over the last year, entertainment wise and stuff. How's life been for you?
Life's been pretty good. Things have been pretty good. Because yeah, it's crazy. I still think about the last time we talked. We were talking about the writer's strike. And so we recorded the whole episode, and we are like, how long is it going to take for the writer's strike to end? And then, boom, all of a sudden it ended right after we recorded that. And we're like, well, we already recorded it. It was like an hour and a half. There's no point in re-recording it. So yeah, it was a while ago, but things are great. We've been putting on quite a few shows. This past Christmas, we put on a modern version of Christmas Carol called Humbug, written by the very talented playwright John Wooten, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun doing that. It was a big show. Audience around here liked it a lot. We did a fundraiser for mental health as well. In May, we did one. It's a production, Love, Loss, and What I Wore. It's a really, really good play that we did to raise some money. We raised $5,600 for mental health and addictions. So we're looking to do it again, an encore of it in May, which is super exciting too, and see if we can raise some more money for them. And aside from that, I have a production, a dessert theater that I'm doing at the time of this recording. It's this Friday. It's called The Fourth Movement, An Artist's Story. It's a script I wrote with a very, very talented group of classical musicians, where basically I'll be performing as a former classical musician turned playwright, kind of tell us his story about how he or what caused him to change his path and stuff like that. There's some twists, there's some turns, and the string quartet, the very, very talented string quartet, provides some music to enhance the story. And we just received some funding, a very generous grant, Arts MB. Anybody who's listening from that, thank you very much. And we got great support from people. And so that will be this Friday and Saturday, March 7th and 8th. Tickets are $20. Anybody who's listened to this locally, I'm sure all of Percy's listeners are from all different places in the world. But if you happen to be in the Miramichi, Beaverbrook Kin Center, tickets are $20. Purchase them on Eventbrite, RSVP by texting or calling. I won't put my cell phone on here in case somebody. Just look us up on Instagram. You'll find all that stuff. But it's a lot of fun. I'm keeping busy, and now my fame will rise to new levels because I'm doing the Prince of Fresh Air podcast. So
exactly. That's the end of the show. Thank you. No, kidding. So let's get into this. Because last time we talked, like we talked about the writer strike, the SAG strike, and things are picking back up. It's still a little shaky. Things aren't as smooth sailing as it was before the strike, but we're slowly moving that way. Have you noticed especially for you, because it might be different for you, being that you're from Canada and you're in theater. But have you noticed the ripple effect from the strike in your side of the world?
No, not really. I mean, like as you said, being in Canada, I mean, we weren't affected by it at all. But I mean, in terms of like all the projects and stuff like that, TV shows and movies that I normally watch, it's great to see that they're getting back up and running. I know there was a couple shows that I always look forward to that were unfortunately delayed because of the strike. That now we're finally getting them. The first season of The Walking Dead Dead City. It's a show I sometimes cover on the podcast as well too. That first season ended around when the strike began, and we still haven't gotten season 2 yet because the strike delay and push and everything. So I think in a way we're still kind of seeing the ripple effects because delayed productions and all that stuff. And then another film that I'm looking forward to that was delayed, The Batman 2, is one that we were all looking forward to. It was supposed to come out, I think, this October, if I'm not mistaken, and it's not coming until 2027, partly due to the writer's strike. So, in a way, we're all still feeling the ripple effects of it, and I think it's one of those things. It's like COVID. COVID happened 5 years ago, but we're still dealing with the ripple effects of it. It's something that's not that. The changes, things, the impact, and all that stuff like that, it's something that's not just going to go away overnight. And same deal with the writer's strike, although maybe on a lesser scale, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is entertainment. But for people like yourself too, I mean, like this is like your livelihood. This is how you make money and stuff like that. So it affected you guys greatly. So definitely, I think we definitely still are seeing the ripple effects of it, but nowhere near as bad as it could be. I mean, I'm glad there was a deal able to be made. People are able to get back to work. But unfortunately, it has pushed so many projects and stuff like that. For everybody, and just happy to see things are looking up. Really, I'm really, really happy about that.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you a hot little topic real quick because me, one of my active friends, we spoke on your platform. This my episode and your episode will be released the same day, so y'all in for a treat. Y'all get to see the most charismatic man, and y'all also get to see Franky twice in one day. That's a special moment. But I want to run this by you because I have a friend, one of my active buddies. I told you about him on your platform. He's one of my manager, and he still does theater. Now I'm theater trained. I did theater most of my life, so that I always hold rules to theater. But I want to ask you something because we had a debate on actors who do theater, like Denzel. Myself, others who are theater trained and go on to TV and film. But then you also have other actors who don't do theater and then go straight to TV and film. Do you think actors should learn and take up theater before they do anything else?
I think it's definitely a good trait to have because when you're doing theater, it's basically you're learning. Essentially, if you're looking at it in like movie terms, you have to memorize the entire film in 2 hours. Like a 2-hour film, you have to perform all of that. There's no, especially when it comes to movie sets and TV sets, where you're on limited time, and we have to be at this location by that time, and there's a lot of money and stuff like that factors into it too. And you can't go into that stuff if people are going into it not knowing their shit. Then it tends to get a little complicated. So I think doing theater has helped me tremendously in that regard because you're used to working, just rehearsing over and over and over again. And then even before you go to rehearsals, you will oftentimes, whether you run lines with people outside of the play or just do what some people do where they just record themselves. I do that as well too. I just record myself and listen to it over and over and over again and get comfortable with it that way. And so I think it might not be needed per se, but I think it's a valuable asset to have. It's almost the same thing about having a defibrillator in your workplace. You hope you never have to use it, but wouldn't hurt to have it if someone had a heart attack and save you from doing CPR and stuff like that. Get the defibrillator. I mean, obviously they're two different things, but the same principle applies to them both. But I think it's definitely a necessity. But I'm sure that there are some people out there who only do only do TV and film, and they're able to just snap right into it just like that. So definitely I find, it's a necessity, or it's more of a I would say it's a good trait to have. It's good to have something to fall back on. It's almost like you go to school to study two different things. You study to go off carpentry, get your red seal, stuff like that. And you can also have your teaching degree. You got two careers to fall back on. If your carpentry doesn't work, you have a teaching degree. So there's two different ways to look at it. So that's where I stand on that anyway. If people don't have it, it's fine, but don't hurt to have, like a defibrillator.
Yeah, you're right. You made a good point. And I was watching this one actor. He has a phenomenal YouTube channel, working actor out of Atlanta. And he was talking about the exact same thing. He said, he never done theater. And, people often talk about having a monologue memorized. I grew up on that, per my studies. But a lot of people don't do that no more. People don't walk around with a monologue memorized unless they're really just doing theater. But if you notice, and I told him this, if you notice, a lot of the big name actors and even working actors, you'll see at some point they went into theater, even if they didn't start on it. Eventually they went over. And I do agree with your point, because it is two different mediums. I think theater is involved, instills that discipline, but film and TV is a whole nother mindset. It's a whole completely different entity. And that's one of the challenges I had when I transitioned over, is because theater is a live show. You think of like the WWE, it's a big performance. TV and film is more nuanced. It's like what we're doing right now. It's two complete different skills, but the discipline is still there. And I think theater allows you not to get complacent in that discipline. Do you agree?
Oh yes, 100%. Because any type of acting project you do, there's always going to be deadlines. Where, as I said, if you're doing a movie and you're on location and there's permits and stuff like that all apply, you got to get the permit and also got to watch the weather. So like there's no really time for screw ups. So if people show up and don't know their lines, it kind of screws everyone over. And same with regards to theater, where you have a deadline. Okay, we just started rehearsals now. We open in let's say a month and a half. We have a month and a half to learn it all, learn your lines by this date, set a date for line memorizations, have that all straightened out. And so there's definitely good discipline that comes with that, because then if you're past the line memorization date and you still don't know your stuff, it can get a little complicated. And I know sometimes things like that can get very stressful if people are not just for the person who is struggling with the lines, but also for the people on stage, because a lot of plays that are very dialogue driven rely on certain lines. So if people keep missing lines and they don't everybody has to be on the same page, and it's like a tennis match. Like, it's just boom, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and someone fumbles, drops the ball, it all kind of falls apart, So that's the same deal with theater and dialogue. There is that discipline there of also you mess up on stage, keep it going. You can't stop and say, sorry guys, I forgot my line. You can't do that. So there is a discipline to that, where you have to be not just think about getting your lines down for you and to know your stuff, but also for the other people involved too, because it really is a team effort. Musicals are a team effort. They're lots of work, but if you don't have not just, you can direct and produce the thing, sure, and handle the production side of things, but you need someone who can also sing. You need someone who can teach singing and that's trained, stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things to it. And theater and any type of project like that, like the TV, even music is one like that too. Good producers and all that stuff like that. Audio engineers. Podcasting too is like that too, where there is that discipline. You have a deadline. You have an episode. Like, let's say you're doing a podcast with a big group of people, and it has to be out by a certain date. People wait for new episodes every week, so there is that discipline to that as well too. Of you got a job to do, you got a deadline. Don't miss it.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. I think theater is one of those art forms I think everybody should do at least once. And not everybody needs to do theater. See, I'm trained in theater. I'm trained in Shakespeare. That's why I started my theater and my acting training was Shakespeare. And I mean, I don't necessarily agree everybody has to do it, but I think at some point you should try it because, like you said, it's completely different disciplines and it takes a lot of work. And I think people underestimate the amount of work that goes into it. And funny story, you're talking about saying line. I remember I did a Shakespeare show. I think it was Much Ado About Nothing. This was about 2014. And some girl said line in the middle of the show. I'm not even joking. He said line in the middle of the show. So
it's a crime. You can't say that.
But as the most charismatic man, I came out. I saved the day because my scene was literally right after the monologue. So I came in, she was flubbing. And one of the things I will say about theater, at least with film and TV, you can mess up. And there's a lot of cutting involved. Like people watch the Avengers Endgame, Captain America Civil War. There's a lot of takes, a lot of things that go into it. Theater is a live show. And recently I've been submersing myself back in theater. I feel like that was something I needed to go back to my roots a little bit. And I went to see a show. And one of the guys, you could obviously tell he was messing up his lines a lot. And when it comes to theater, when you start bunching over your lines, it's very noticeable. And I heard people in the audience whispering on the sucks or whatever. But I give grace because at the end of the day, it's unless you've been trained to do this, it's a very hard art form. And I think a lot of people don't put respect on theater name unless it's like Broadway, musical theaters, a lot of money involved. So I want to ask you about this because I've talked about this in conversations before. For me, the reason why I stopped doing theater, and I say 2018 was because 2018 was because it was just the money. The money wasn't really there, and I enjoy theater, but I knew that it wouldn't get me where I wanted to go in terms of TV and film. But even outside of that, I think unless you're trying to do like Broadway, at least if you live in New York City, unless you're doing Broadway musical theater, which I'm not a singer. As good looking as I am, I ain't making no hot singles. But I know that's not my realm. So let me ask you, what do you think separates Broadway from just theater? Because there are big plays, Denzel, I think he just did Death of a Salesman. But unless it's a big name attached to it, musical theater tends to be more successful. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
I think in terms of musical theater, there's more opportunities for that than, let's say, a straight play. Like if you're doing like a comedy, there's more opportunities in musicals because for singing and all that, there's chorus members and all that, and then also musical. There's so many moving parts. There's mics and sound and lighting. Like there's so much that goes into musicals. That even if you want to go into something and act in it, if you don't get a part in it, then I would say it's just as good to work behind the scenes too, because there's a lot that goes into it. And yeah, like even if you're just like a straight actor, you know what I mean? I don't mean in terms of sexuality. I mean like in terms of like acting and not non-musical. There, I should have said that. People take
clean
that
it up, Frankie. Clean it up.
People, yeah. This where I get canceled now. People say he's homophobic. But someone who says that, like, I don't do musicals, it's like, okay, that's cool, but you like theater enough to the point of like we need someone to help with the tech, we need someone to help with the behind the scenes stuff. Would you be willing to do that? So I think in that regard there's a lot more opportunities that open up in regards to musicals versus non musicals, because you have like a comedy, maybe you have like 8 people on stage. Musical, you normally have about 20, 30 like dancers and this and that. Now it depends on what musical you're doing. There's some musicals that are just 5 people, so in that regard I'd say there's more opportunities for musicals in that regard, just because of the production value and how much they are, and just also the work that goes into it. Like it's, even if, because I always say this too, if you want to work in the arts, you can't work in the arts pursuing just one thing. You gotta open yourself up. If you go into it saying I want to do just acting, good luck trying to find just acting. You're not going to find doing just acting. You gotta work tech, build sets, whatever, write stuff. Like you have to be multi talented in a way to if that's what you really want to pursue as a career, because it's difficult, because you're going from job to job and it's hard. And even Broadway actors too, like us talking about Broadway, people like them, like, okay, they got a big hit on Broadway, okay, that's awesome, but then after that's done, where do you go? I mean, some people, if you're who's a big Broadway actor, like Bill Burr, Bob Odenkirk, Michael McKean are on Broadway now. Actually, they're the first ones that came to mind. They're doing Glengarry Glen Ross next month, and unless you have like their power and their fame, they don't have to work a day in their life if they want to. They could just retire now, but what would they do? I remember we were talking about that on my podcast. If you retire, what are you going to do? Like, Jim Carrey didn't come out of retirement because he needed money. Jim Carrey's got all the money in the world. He could buy 10 houses if he wanted to, So that's how I kind of see it. I kind of went in 20 different directions with regards to that. But yes, no, definitely there's more opportunities in regards to musical theater than there is non-musicals, I'd say.
Yeah. That's the hardest pill I had to swallow, because I love theater. I will always hold it near and dear to my heart. I will return to the stage at some point. But one of the things I always kind of point out is when people talk about, the Denzels, the Forrest Whitakers, the Tom Hollands who return to the stage, a lot of times they're not getting paid what a normal Broadway actor or a regular actor would be. They're getting paid a lot of money to be involved. So it's different when you're a celebrity and you go back to theater or you do theater, because you're not working for the union rate or whatever rate that's going. You're going to get paid accordingly because you're a name. And I want to ask you, because like you said, in this industry, you have to be multi-talented. And I didn't really notice that until I got my first agent when I moved to LA in 2019, when he was like, hey, I'm going to submit you for voiceover work, commercial work, print jobs. And I knew what print was, but commercial work and voiceovers, I wasn't here for that. But it really opened my eyes, because essentially it's not even just the money. It's everything plays a big part. If you do voiceover work, you can use that experience in your acting training or in your acting, in acting. Same thing as commercial work. You can take acting stuff and use it to commercial work and vice versa. So for you, let me ask you, because there is a thing where certain actors, they just want to do theater, and some just want to do TV and film, and some dibble and dabble. For you, do you ever think that your ultimate goal is to transition over, or is theater your calling card?
I'm open to a multitude of things. That's one thing I've learned. Even this past year, one of the big projects I didn't bring it up is I started doing some voice production and stuff like that with a group in Hamilton, Ontario called the Freedom Forgers, which is basically a organization that encourages people who are on the spectrum or have autism or disabilities to pursue the arts. And so they do a multitude of things, like it's voice acting, it's making their own cartoons, and all that stuff. So I've kind of done a little bit of that too, where if you would have told me like 5 years ago you're gonna be doing some voice work and stuff like that, I would have said like, okay, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But yet it makes sense because of who I've met and stuff like that. My a good friend Krista Potenza, if you're listening to this as well too, who we that's one of the things that we're always going for funding for, trying to get funding to make these opportunities for people to start their own podcast and to be a voice actor and pursue the arts. And whether it's like, no matter what you want to do in it, if you want to write, direct, just work on the animation, there's so many different things to it. So in that regard, I'd say I always thought I was just theater because I didn't know if I had what it took to be anything else, if that makes any sense. I mean, even starting the podcast, I said, I don't think I'll last, a month. I said, who knows? I said, this might be one of those things where I said, this could just fall flat on its face and I made a mistake and this and that. But here we are, and it's one thing where you got to do it to prove to yourself that you're not just one. Like there's multiple layers to you. You can do more than you think you're capable of. And in terms of doing all the stuff with the voice projects and animation and all that, I proved to myself that it's a possibility to be able to pursue something like that. So really, whatever opportunities come my way, if it makes sense, if I feel like it's something I can do, then absolutely. But theater will always be like my safety net. It's always something I know I can fall back on, and I'll be okay with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges and rewards for me was doing that, was experimenting with the different mediums. When I left theater, it took me a while to get the hang of TV and film acting because it's different. And then when I started doing that, then I started doing voiceover auditions and stuff. And it was interesting because I remember when I took voice and diction in college. Shout out to my professor. He's retired, Dr. Simone, St. Bonaventure University. Amazing teacher. He talked about that, where when you leave college, when you leave theater, it's a different world now. You're not going to always be able to play any type of role. You're going to have to learn your type and learn who you are as an actor, because TV and film doesn't give you the same grace as theater. So I'll give you a little example. No AI, no nothing. This is just straight my voice. So I'll talk like this, and I just want to tell you a story. And then I'll do this, and I'll show you. I'll tell you.
That's good, actually.
Voice a little bit. Yeah,
you just got to clear your throat. That was good, though. Actually, I didn't know you had that. But you would hear that on a cartoon and go, "There's no way that's Percy Brown." You know what I mean? Like that shows that you're multi-talented.
Whew, that made my eye water a little bit. But anyway, yeah, I didn't warm up the throat a little bit for that, but I do think it is great and it's awesome because like one of the things I love about certain actors like Chadwick, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, they've learned how to play with their voice. They learned how to not just use their body; they learned how to use everything about them to act. But one of the things I will say about theater, and it still rings true today, is that no matter what the play is, no matter what the production is, whether it's a musical theater or a regular straight theater piece, the audience is always packed.
Yeah.
We're always there to watch it. And that's one of the things I've noticed with the movie theater experience, even for myself. When it comes to theater, I have no problem jumping in. But when it comes to the movie theater, I'm not as quick to go as much anymore. Which is, I know for an actor to say that, people are like rolling their eyes. But hear me out for a second. I think the movie experience, I think COVID ruined the movie experience. I think theater is always best live. I've watched myself someone recording a play and it just doesn't hit the same. You have to be there to feel it. Like Broadway. You can't just watch it on YouTube and get that same immersive feeling. But the movie theater experience has changed. You know, a lot of movies are suffering from that, where a lot of people aren't going in droves to the movie theaters as, let's say, a theater house is. It's always packed. Do you think that the movie theater experience will go back to the way it was, or do you think that that is just a roll with the times, the change of the industry, changing of the guard, if you will?
I think that's exactly what you said. It's a change of the industry. Like, and I think credit where credit is due. We have had some movies that have sparked insane audience appeal, like wide appeal, like not just with Marvel. Probably a good majority of it is like Marvel, Star Wars, and stuff like that. But we had Wicked. Wicked came out in theaters, and people were just going out in droves to see that. And Sonic 3 was a big one too. I love Sonic 3. Moana 2 came out. That was a big one. What was the other one? Inside Out 2 came out, and that hit $1 billion. So I think it's slowly getting back up on its feet. But whether it'll be the same again is another question, because now we also live in a day and age now where streaming is so quick. It's so quick to go to streaming. I just mentioned Sonic 3. That came out in December before Christmas, like just a few weeks ago. We're recording this in February. It just came out on streaming. So it's and then same with Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine came out in July. It was on Disney Plus in like September. So I think it hurts it in that regard, because people will just think, okay, I'll just go watch it when it comes on Disney Plus in 2 months. I can wait 2 months. But then there's the side of, if you're such a big fan of it and you don't want it to get spoiled. If you're a Marvel fan and you choose not to see a movie and think, oh, it's fine, no one's gonna spoil it for me. No, you'll find spoilers for it. Like there's no doubt about that. And you know, I've beat myself up on so many occasions during movie experiences where I'm like, oh shit, I wish I didn't, look that up online. I should have waited, but so I think it will never get back to 100% where it was, but it's been resuscitated a little bit, if that makes any sense, where movies are still making lots of money. It's enough to prove that the movie theaters are worth keeping open, and the business is still, and the demand is high and stuff like that. But I think it won't be the same, since we know that these movies, because before it would be like, if Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie like that, came out in pre-COVID, it wouldn't have been out on DVD till like Christmas time. Like it would have came out in the summer, and then it would have been out on DVD by Christmas. So it's two different, generations, I guess you could say. But yeah, whether it'll get back to 100%, I hope it does. But being realistic, it probably won't. But there is still enough demand for the movies to still shine and to keep people in jobs and all that, and to get people out going to see movies. Because I still love going to the theater. Some people say I don't bother anymore because I just feel better at home. Like movies are meant to be watched on a big screen with an audience, and so I think it's great that they have been able to get back up on their feet a little bit. Maybe not 100%, but we've seen some sort of restoration to the dark days that COVID unfortunately caused.
Yeah, this is twofold for me. And I think it's two parts, two answers. The second part is going to be a little more elaborate. The first part, I think, is the experience has gotten expensive. Now, this is relative to where you live, but if you live in like LA, New York, the big markets, that you looking at for yourself, for two people, you bring on a date, you're looking at, close to $100 with food. And now I have my ways to save a little money. I can, say it on, but
sneak it in.
Yeah,
I knew exactly what you're talking about.
Movie hop. there's ways to kind of finesse away a little bit, but truth be told, unless you're dishonest like I am, it gets expensive to go to the movies all the time. And I think that, and two, I think one of the common criticisms I see a lot from actors in Hollywood, directors, producers, screenwriters in the industry, is there's not a lot of originality anymore. If you notice, like Marvel had the movie theater on lockdown from like 2013 to 2020. Everybody and their grandmother was going to the movie theater, really just for Marvel. Not to say they weren't going for other movies, but that was Marvel's period. Even to this day, even despite some of the flagrant movies that really didn't pan out well, they still have the movie theater on lockdowns. What I've noticed though is a shift. The days of a Training Day, Independence Day with Will Smith, those type of movies thriving in the movie theaters, I think are long gone. I wouldn't say long gone. I think they're gone though, because most people, when they go to movie theaters now, if they're going to spend a premium to see this movie, $30 a ticket plus $30 for popcorn and a drink, you're going to want to see the big blockbusters that looks amazing on the big screen. And so I think one of the biggest challenges too is just the originality. A lot of movies you mentioned are amazing movies, but one thing they have in common is they already have a fan base. They already have they already have a prequel to them. So it's not like you're coming up with a new concept. You're doing Avatar number 4. You're doing, number 20 of the MCU movies. You're doing, another 10 movies for DC. So there's not a lot of originality, but I can't blame them, because if you think about it, if you put a Marvel movie in the summer, and unless it's an Avatar or a big movie of that caliber, your movie's getting washed out. And I think it's unfortunate, because there's a lot of good stories that need to be told. But I think, one, a lot of people are competing with Marvel because they are the driving force. And two, I think it's hard when you are competing with Marvel. You can't come up with a story that might be dynamic and, dramatic and have layers to it, when everybody's going to see that Marvel movie, and they might tap out after that because finances. I already splurged on Captain America, Brave New World. Do you agree with that assessment though, that in this day and age, it's the superheroes, the big blockbuster action movies, those are the movies that are in demand right now?
I think so. Like you look at, as we always talk about with Marvel, Deadpool and Wolverine hit huge records. It became the highest grossing R-rated movie ever. You look at something like Avatar. Avatar 3's coming out this year. Guaranteed that's probably going to be the biggest movie of the year. So I think you are right. There are certain movies that are... nowadays, they would have absolutely gone to a movie theater. But nowadays, you look at it, it's like, okay, that's just a streaming movie because nobody's going to want to come out and see it in theaters. Unless it's a Marvel or, stuff like that. So I think there is truth to that, absolutely, because those are the big movies that everybody is talking about. Sonic the Hedgehog is a good example too. I mean, that broke lots of records and stuff like that too. And it already had a fan base too. Like, it's hard now to build up these new films and franchises that want to, these new films that want to spark a new franchise, because there wasn't anything before it. People just want to go with stuff that they know is safe bets. Like, okay, Avatar 3's coming out. Okay, first two were great. Let's go see that. There's this movie called, I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind, the pencil sharpener versus the water bottle. And they're like, I don't know what that is. It sounds dumb. I'm not going to bother to go see it. And it's like, wow, that could have had potential if the box office was right. Pencil versus versus water bottle. That could have been the next Transformers. But I think it's caused it to hurt other films' potential, where they want to start a potential franchise just because they want to just keep going back to the theater for what they know are safe bets. Like, most of the Marvel movies are going to be hits. I mean, they've had some
Yeah.
flops, yes, absolutely, but say, yeah, Inside Out 2, the first one was terrific. You know that the second one will probably be even better, and it was. Moana 2, Frozen 3, like they just go with the safer bets now, I find. And it's a shame because I know there are lots of movies out there now that have gone to streaming that you're like, if more people would see it, who knows what could come from it, And so yeah, that's where I stand on that. Where it's not really given other movies the chance to really shine and expand like they would. Instead, people just throw their money to go see a movie that they know they want to go see Transformers 20 instead of pencil sharpener versus water bottle. Like that's just how it is now.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's going to be a fascinating next 15 years for the entertainment industry because the shift right now to superheroes, the action movies. I know Martin Scorsese caught a lot of flack for his comments on superhero movies, but when you look at how much Avatar, Marvel, DC to a certain extent, a lot of these big franchises, when they daily on average are crossing the $1 billion views, $1 billion in box office, it makes it really hard to do anything else and bring it to the movie theater. Because right now I'm looking at the lineup, right, for this year, for Marvel alone, they got 3 movies coming out, and 2 of them is coming around the summer. So by that time, unless you got an Avatar, something that can really compete with that, you're gonna be strapped because everybody's going to see Fantastic Four. They're going to go see the Thunderbolts. Those are going to be some hits, but I think as an actor though, I do think thank God for streaming, because I know streaming, some people look at it as it ruined the entertainment industry in terms of pay and all that stuff. But at the flip side, I think it's giving people a lot more chances to view and find different projects. Because 20 years ago, unless you were a Denzel, a Will Smith, a Robert De Niro, a Tom Cruise, one of those movie stars, a chance of you getting seen by the masses were pretty slim. So now, if someone has a Apple TV, a Hulu, a Netflix, an HBO Max subscription, Amazon Prime, they can find your work and it can turn your career over in an instant. I still maintain if you do a Marvel movie, it's basically making your career a guarantee. Shout out to Marvel, Sarah Finn. Just hit me up. I'm always available to work. But I think that is right now. That's what's in. But I look hopeful for the future because I do think every 10 or so years the shift changes, and at least with theater, that shift has never changed. Theater is always the home of originality, creativity, people going there willingly spend $20 for a ticket and they enjoy the show. Whereas with movies, you're competing with money, fame, fortune, marketing, all types of politics that goes that goes with it. So Frankie, before we wrap this up, I wanna have a little game with you. All right,
Hell yeah.
I've been trying to add a little spice, a little fun to this. So I want to do a couple of little rapid fires, and then I'm gonna put you on the hot seat. All right. So let me do this first. First question for you: if you could work with any director, dead or alive, who would you work with?
Any director. Holy shit, that's a good one. I always say, I mean, even with regards to not just directing but writing too. This applies to that. Vince Gilligan, Breaking Bad.
Interesting.
Yep, he, being. I mean, obviously, theater and TV are 2 different things, but seeing how he works, how he writes, how he directs, watching all the behind the scenes and the talks and the podcast interviews and stuff he does, it just inspires me so much because of what he's made. I mean, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. He even wrote and directed the sequel film El Camino. That would just be the dream to get to do something with him. So I guess he also counts as a film director. But if you were to say film director, any film director at all, I think maybe let's say Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan would be great to work with. Yeah.
Man, I got a couple people on that list, but this is not about me. I want to keep this rolling. All right. So we did directors. Now let's do a couple iconic characters. If you had to choose between Captain America and Iron Man, now we're talking actually Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic, Robert Downey and Chris Evans. If you had to choose between them, because I just watched Civil War, so you have to choose a side. Are you on Captain America's side or are you on Iron Man's side?
I mean, of course, there's the biased part of me that Captain America was always my favorite character, like my favorite superhero. I do see Iron Man's side to a certain extent where he just wants what's best for the team. But I am also more on Cap's side where it's look, the world needs superheroes just because of all the shit that has happened because of it. If superheroes weren't there, what would we have done? You know what I mean? Like Thanos comes, oh sorry, the Avengers aren't working anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're out of business. So you see both sides where Tony's side was he just wants to keep the team together and keep everyone safe. But also Cap's side, I completely see his side of things where the world needs superheroes, the world needs us, kind of thing. Yeah. So I would say to answer that, I'd say Team Cap.
Real quick, I look at it this way, and I was just thinking about it as you said it. I look at Captain America and Civil War, Captain America Civil War. I look at him as the people who view themselves as entrepreneurs, the people who might have, a part-time job here and there, but they're go-getters. They want to have the mobility to do all types of jobs. So they might do Uber Eats, then they might, do, personal shopping or maybe a dog groomer, people who want to have the free choice. And then Iron Man was kind of more like the 9 to 5, the person, the older generation that you got to stick with this company 9 to 5. That's your job. You go on at 9, you clock in at 5, and that's your routine. So, I mean, for me, I kind of agreed with Captain America because although Iron Man was coming from a right place, I do think Captain America was team free will. We want to be able to move and have autonomy of ourselves, because once you let the government control us, where does the control end? So, that's just a nice little thinking point. Go watch Civil War if you missed it.
I'll watch it again.
No, not you, just in general. But
oh, I think you're talking to me.
Oh no.
I saw that in theaters when it came out.
Yeah, no, just in general. For people, I think that's one of my favorite Marvel movies. Not just because of the action, but because of the story. It was just brilliant. But let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this segment. Now, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. We're going to be doing actors. I want you to I'm going to give you 2 names, and you just pick one or the other. Now, this is just for fun. It's not to say one is a better actor or whatever, but this is just your personal preference. Who would you choose? So you ready to do this?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm going to start off hot. Let's do George Clooney or Tom Hanks.
Oh, Tom Hanks. I'd say Tom Hanks.
All right. Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans?
Oh, shit. That's loaded. Oh, damn. That's actually a good one, because I'm not sure if you saw Knives Out. Chris Evans is terrific in that movie.
I did see that.
Robert Downey Jr. was excellent in Oppenheimer. He was, oh, geez. Yeah, that's a... God, you got me good there, that one. I'll say RDJ, Robert Downey Jr. I think I'll go with the Oscar winner on that one. Yeah, as that was a close one. I said Chris Evans is really good, but I think I've probably seen more Robert Downey Jr. movies than Chris Evans movies. So yeah, I'll say Robert Downey Jr. Yeah.
All right. I want to do this because I know he passed away, but I think putting 2 comedy legends makes sense. Jim Carrey or Robin Williams.
Oh, I'll say Jim Carrey.
Really? Okay.
I'm gonna say Jim Carrey. That's a tough one. Now that's like a picking hamburgers or pizza. You love them both, but you can only pick one. Um, yeah, I don't know. Jim Carrey, man, like he's just. I mean, especially seeing him in the Sonic movies now too, where you would think people show up to the movies to see Sonic, but now I go into the Sonic movies wanting to see Jim Carrey play Robotnik. And he was so good in Sonic 3, they announced Sonic 4, and the first thing I said was, if they're going to make Sonic 4, don't bother if you can't get Jim Carrey back. But even not just that, he's done so much. Liar Liar is, I think that's... The bathroom scene in Liar Liar, anybody who hasn't seen Liar Liar, just look up the bathroom scene and thank me later. Where he's kicking his own ass. He's like, I'm kicking my ass, do you mind? Like, and then, oh my God, he's done so much... I know it wasn't a popular film. Mr. Popper's Penguins, he's good in that one too.
Yeah.
That's a fun one I watched. Dumb and Dumber, of course. I think I already mentioned that. And Dumb and Dumber 2. Kick-Ass 2. He wasn't in a whole lot of Kick-Ass 2, but I loved him in Kick-Ass 2. Bruce Almighty. God, yeah, he's just done so friggin' much. But Liar Liar though is one of the funniest movies ever. So yeah, I gotta say Jim Carrey. As great as Robin Williams is, you know, Mrs. Doubtfire is a classic. Help is on the way, dear. That's yeah. I'll say Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. All right, I'm gonna put you back on the hot seat. Al Pacino or Robert De Niro?
I think De Niro.
Yeah, I got
that was easy for me. Yeah, I like Pacino too, but just I like De Niro's work a little better.
All right, so we got. Let's do. You know what? Let's do Christian Bale and Heath Ledger.
Ooh. I think I'll say Christian Bale.
Yeah.
As good as Heath Ledger is, Heath Ledger's done a lot of good stuff. I like A Knight's Tale is a good one. And oh jeez. But see, that's difficult too, because I mean, even in The Dark Knight, which I say is one of the greatest not just greatest comic book movies ever made, but one of the greatest movies ever made, and that he completely stole the show in that. But that's just one movie. I can't base it off just one film where Christian Bale has done so much other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say Christian Bale. I mean, he's done so much, you know, unfortunately Heath Ledger, I mean, he died so young. I think maybe if he was still around today, maybe I would say Heath Ledger because he would have done so much more. But just with all Christian Bale has done, you know, Batman, as much as I hate Thor: Love and Thunder, he was good in that. Yeah, it's like, as I said, picking hamburgers and pizza. You love them both, but who do you pick? I say Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. All right, who do you pick? Matt Damon or Brad Pitt?
Ooh, shit, that's a good one. I'm gonna go Matt Damon. Matt Damon for me.
Damon?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna give you two more. This is gonna be the real top lineup we're talking about here. All right, we got Leonardo DiCaprio or Tom Cruise.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. I think he's more. I mean, I always picture Tom Cruise as just an action guy. I mean, he's done so much more aside from that, but Leo has so much diversity in the roles he does, and he's so good. It's got to be Leo in that one.
All right, so let me throw one more in there before I get to the top choice. All right, how about let's do. I just had the names: Morgan Freeman or Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh. Yeah, Sam L. Jackson. Like that's a given. I freaking love Sam Jackson. I love Morgan Freeman too, but that's I say Sam L. motherfucking Jackson, man. Sorry, I'm not sure if I can swear on here.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Now this is the moment I've been waiting for because this is going to answer who you are as a person.
All right.
Will Smith or Denzel Washington?
Yeah, Denzel.
That's it. That's the show, baby. We're done. We're done.
I mean, look, they both done like you pick really really good. Like even the Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans thing. I'm like, my God, like that was loaded right there. Um, but just yeah, like I mean, Denzel is Denzel.
Yeah.
Like enough said. You know what I mean? Like it's.
That's my favorite actor of all time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Will Smith. Would love to work with him. But Denzel is the guy that got me into acting. So
I'd be afraid of getting slapped. That's the only thing. If I work with Will Smith, yeah,
that's true. Don't keep his name out your mouth, all right, Frank?
not keep his wife's name.
That's you can't come on, man. I already had one of his co-stars on this podcast, man. You gonna get me in trouble, man. Oh man. Well, this podcast is over. I'll see y'all later. I'm
Percy
out.
just got canceled.
I'm finished. I'm finito. I'm like a burnt steak. I'm done. I'm cooked.
This isn't live. You can just cut that out. I didn't say anything.
That's true. No, I'll keep it. We just having fun.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, this part of for the course. This is what we do over here. It's much more than just conversations, entertainment. But Frankie, we've been chatting for a while. I know it's a Sunday. We both want to enjoy the rest of the weekend. But before we get out of here, this is not the last time you'll hear Frankie. He'll be back on. But Frankie, what do you got going on? What do you want to plug before we let the people go back to getting their cheeseburgers, getting their party on?
Yes. Well, first off, thank you so much again for having me on, Percy. It's always a blast, and it's been a while, but better late than never. It's actually also a good thing in a way because it means we're busy. Just trying to squeeze everything in. We're like, yeah, it means we're doing stuff. But you become a regular on my podcast. I become a regular on yours. We'll have to host one together at some point, like the Percy and Frankie show or something. Toss down ideas in the comments for that podcast names. Percy and Frankie or Frankie and Percy. I prefer Frankie and Percy, but anyway. So anybody who happens, first off, of course, you can find our social media on Instagram at Corcoran Entertainment. You can also find it on Facebook at Corcoran Entertainment. The YouTube channel is Corcoran Entertainment. The podcast, the Corcoran Entertainment Show, new episodes are every Tuesday with the occasional one we drop on Thursdays. And that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well too. So in terms of projects, I mentioned at the top for anyone listening who happens to be in Miramichi surrounding areas, the Fourth Movement, an artist story, is this Friday, March 7th, and Saturday the 8th. It's a very, very it's a show I'm very proud of, and I'm also doing a tour with that same group coming up in the spring. We're taking we've combined the music and storytelling, so we're taking a little tour around our amazing province here of New Brunswick in April, going into May, which is I'm super excited for. And I also I will get out the information that I have for a play I do with the St. James and St. John United Church. It's a lot of fun. The Mapleton Dynasty. It's a hilarious play. April 4th, 5th, and 6th at the United Church Center, 556 King George Highway. Show starts at 7. Tickets are $20 each, and it's available at the Church Center or Dickinson's Pharmacy. Anybody who's listening to this from all over the world are like, what's that? Where's that? It's fine. But anyone who could come on out, we'd appreciate it. And I appreciate you, Percy, for having me on again. And hopefully this episode doesn't cancel us, because I'm pretty sure I made some controversial opinions on the actors. Some would say, no, I think Al Pacino's better than Robert De Niro. Art is subjective. That's what I say. But always a blast, man. And thank you again. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, TMZ tried to cancel me multiple times, but you can't stop the most charismatic man. I keep telling him that.
Charismatic man stops you.
Yeah, exactly. You can't stop this train. But, Frankie, it's always a pleasure. One of the reasons why I like talking to you is because it's just a conversation. And it makes me, I think sometimes people forget that I'm not just a podcaster. I'm an actor. That's what I do first. And I love conversations like this because there's nothing more I enjoy talking about than acting. And it's always good to talk to someone like you and people like you who are working consistently in it. They have a passion for it, and they're always trying to better themselves while they're doing it. So, it's always great to have a fellow thespian on the podcast. But you know what? This is just the beginning to a beautiful end of the show. But Frankie, like I said, it's Sunday. Let's enjoy ourselves. I always say a helping hand is a better hand. And they say this is no party like a Diddy party, but there's no show like the Prince of Fresh Air.